So you're in a situation like that with your marriage. It seems impossible. There's just no way out. Look what's happening. It's been years like this. And Satan is pushing, you're done. God may not be done, and it's not going to be done with that marriage. There's always a chance with God's help.
Welcome to the Focus on the Family broadcast, helping families thrive.
David, welcome back to Focus.
Well, my pleasure to be here.
We love having you here. You're just so energetic, number one. You're fun to be with. I can't believe you can contain yourself in a counseling session. You must be a very interesting counselor.
I'm very active.
Are you subdued when a couple is in front of you, or are you just in their face?
I'm never subdued.
I can see that.
I tell them what to do and how to do it. That's why they're coming to me. I don't say, well, I have never, ever said in a counseling session, how do you feel about that?
You get right to the point.
Oh, come on. Yeah, we're going to get right to it.
I love it. And let me ask you, you believe there's some good news about bad marriages. How?
3 words, join the club. 99.9% of marriages get into the danger category at one point or another. 5 to 7 years, huge problem area. The 7-year itch is real. And then if you clear that, then it's going to be the 18 to 20-year mark, another huge upswing. Marriage breaks down. Annoying habits, male-female differences, communication problems, conflict issues, plus no one ever taught you how to be intimate. In a great Christian home, if mom and dad did that, they did it behind closed doors. I don't know how to do it. So your marriage is going to break down. That's the bad news.
In fact, in this great book, I Don't Want to Divorce, a 90-day guide to saving your marriage, you mentioned kind of 3 basic marriage types. Let's start there.
Good. First, we're unhappy but willing to work on it. Our marriage is struggling. We admit it. We're going to be honest here, 2 adults, and we want to get better. Maybe, and there's different categories in that main category.
But that's not a bad place to be. That's a good place. They're recognizing, okay, we're struggling. We're roommates. Right. Let's do better.
Right. The couples who don't have the honest conversation, I'm unhappy, you're unhappy, we're in trouble, those are the ones that end up getting divorced. If you'll voice it and you'll seek a plan like my plan or your pastor or focus his resources, and the intensives are awesome, they're excellent. I send couples to those. You can make it, but you've got to have the conversation and you have to start doing something before it's too late.
Let me ask you this, the want to. We're going to come back and get the other 2 real quick. But what about the want to that you're describing? How does a couple recognize, okay, we still have I want to do it better in us?
Oh, good question.
I mean, that's it.
It's usually going to be a conversation brought up by one of the spouses, probably going to be the woman, because they're sensitive and they know what they're missing. Your basic guy doesn't know what he's missing. If there's food on the table, if we're okay in the bedroom, if my job is okay, we're good. Hey, aren't we good? Not realizing the wife is dying inside, so she's going to bring it up. My theory is a good man's going to get it. You have to bring it up. You've got to be very direct. He'll realize, and then we go through a series of steps, and that if he loves his wife, and chances are he does, okay, what do I have to do? Initially, he doesn't know what he's missing. He'll do it for her, and that's a fine way to start. Eventually, a few weeks into the program, he'll realize, I've been missing. I'm not deep. I'm not close to my wife. So that's where the want to comes initially from, I love you. You're saying we're in trouble. I'm going to respond to that.
But what I'm also hearing you say is that want to can be an aha. You may not start there. I mean, I just don't know what I want. And then when you start going through the process of why are we not as strong as we could be, you start recognizing, maybe I'm part of the problem.
Oh, yeah. I'm sitting with couples in my office every week, had 4 or 5 this last week. The wife is there. She's dragged the husband there, and he actually has the nerve. She explains, I'm upset, I'm unhappy, we're not intimate. And he's arguing with both of us, saying, no, we're fine. I'm telling you, we're fine. I say, what are you doing in a shrink's office? What, are you out of your mind? You're in trouble. Your wife is saying you're in trouble, but there's a lot of resistance to that.
What's the male thing about that? Why are we blind to that? What is it? Is it ego? Are we saying, hey, even though we've got our issues, it's okay?
Partly that. We're into control, and I don't want to feel like I'm out of control in my marriage. But underneath, the real reason is, if this is really a problem, much is going to be required of me. I'm going to have to learn how to be intimate. I'm going to have to really get deeper with my wife. I don't want to do that. I don't know how to do it. I'm not good at it. And so if I can somehow convince her that we're okay, then we don't have to do this. Well, it's the dumbest argument in the history of the world. She's already saying, I'm unhappy. We need to have a response to that, sir.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the other 2. You mentioned the we're unhappy stage, but willing to work on it. What's number 2?
Number 2 is my spouse won't change. Many spouses are in this situation. Probably the woman, could be the man. let's say it's the woman, and you have a husband who is not going to divorce you, but he is pretty much done with you. He is not going to be intimate with you, and he won't do anything to change. He won't read my book, I Don't Want a Divorce. He will not go to a seminar. He will not go to an intensive. He won't talk to your pastor. He's not going to make any changes. And this can happen over a period of years. And the wife's dying inside. What am I supposed to do if I have a husband or a spouse like that? What does the church offer me? Well, Dave Clark, through his book and Focus, is we're offering you a plan, a clear plan that will get his attention, hopefully motivate him, get him to repent from his sin, because that husband's in serious sin. If you're saying our marriage is in trouble and I'm not going to do anything to work on it, I'm breaking one of God's most important laws. And so that's a sinner, and we're going to confront that sin.
And we'll come back around on each of these. We're going to explore them more, but we want to get the basics right up front. And the third one then is my spouse has sinned big time,
Right.
and I don't know that he deserves being married to me any longer.
Right. This is the catastrophic crisis when the roof just caves in. I found out my husband is looking at pornography, and it's been a pattern. I found out he's got an emotional affair going with someone at work, or Susie that he knew back in junior high, whatever, or he's got a full-blown affair. Or there's been an alcohol problem, a drug problem, financial irresponsibility. He's gambling. He's wasted our money. He's done something that, or she's done something just outrageous. It's extremely sinful, and it's a massive crisis. How to heal, how to enter the system at that point, get the sinner to repent and get into recovery, and then heal from what has happened. That's the challenge in that situation.
And I want to say, every time you're voicing the he did this, you're really saying he, she, the spouse, but it's fatiguing to always have to say he, she. So, unless it's specific to male behavior, you're really trying to refer to both genders that could be in trouble, right?
Oh, exactly. And women are, I hate to say this, women are catching up in the sinning category. So it could
Well,
be
yeah,
either
I mean,
way.
that's it. So you've got this 90-day plan. What can a couple expect out of the book and the resources to help? I mean, really, is it that simple? 90 days? It sounds like, if I could be that bold, you're going to help me lose a little weight.
It's 90 days because I say it is.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
just
What
saying.
about 110? It could take 180. Who knows?
It might. But it's after 30 years doing this, I have developed a plan. Been doing this now for 20 years. This book comes out of 20 years of I know this works. It's exactly what I do in my therapy sessions.
So it's tested by couples, thousands of couples.
I don't work in theory. I don't write a book. I don't present a seminar until I know it works. It works for Sandy and I, and we went through many of these steps, the blonde and I.
The blonde, as
She didn't
you
want
refer.
to, but I said, I'm writing a book, honey. Help me out here.
Can we just clarify the blonde is an affectionate term, and she's good with it?
Oh, she is. She loved
She
being called the
loves it.
blonde.
Well, let's spend the rest of the time right now talking about marriages where both spouses are unhappy, but they're willing to work on it. We'll go a little deeper with each of these. How do you think these couples typically get where they're at? What creates the roommate mentality?
I think it's the nature of the beast. It's just what marriage is like. And it happened to the blonde, Sandy and I. And we didn't even expect it to, but it did.
So this is pretty normal.
It's very normal. You're infatuated. You're in love. You get married. Then you start living together and you find out just how hard it is. Massive adjustments, annoying habits. I can't believe she's like that. Sandy found out that I'm a slob. She didn't know that because we weren't living together. Unbelievable, world-class slob.
You thought she knew that about
Yeah,
you.
Dave Brown, my roommate in college, didn't care because he was a slob too. I never got the memo here. So that was a big issue. And then so things are already starting to break down, and we don't know how to be intimate. When you lose the rush, the adrenaline, the power of the infatuation, you don't have anything left. Now we have to learn how to develop intimacy. No one's ever taught us. Don't have a clue. You're given often in the church, and well-meaning people, and they're wonderful, and church is wonderful, but you're given the goal, but you're not given the how-tos.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Man, so
That's why Focus is here.
exactly.
You think about that.
And you do a wonderful job. No one else does it like Focus. And then you're already kind of on the edges, and then you do the one thing that's guaranteed to kill your passion, stone cold dead. You have a child. You know what? What were you thinking? What, are you out of your mind? Then it's all about the baby. I mean, when our Emily came, our first, it was just like catastrophic. Our lives just came to a stop. We got to keep her alive. And then it was, we got to stay alive. She's killing us. She was yelling all the time. She's very feisty. She's a wonderful person, but So that
I don't know where she gets that.
I can't imagine.
I just got to say it. That's so
know.
funny. You also give some advice in the book about this kind of marriage. You suggest we take these marriages out back and shoot them. What are you getting to? What is that all
I
about?
tell most of my couples that, and they're shocked out of their heads. We're sitting there at the end of the first session. I say, look, I got to tell you, this marriage is awful. It's dead. Take it out back and shoot it. We're done. And they look at me like, why are we here? I thought he was a Christian, Betty, Bob. I say, look, your first marriage is over. We're not going back to that one. We're going to redo. We're going to heal from what's happened, and with God's principles, we're going to put into place the brand new marriage, which is going to take you the rest of the way. So that's a little juxtaposition I use, and it really seems to work.
No, it's true. Okay, to successfully build a stronger marriage, you believe couples must strengthen their relationship with God. Everybody that feels that way is now saying, yes, we're getting to the spiritual component. That's so true. That's foundational, we would say. What does that look like, though, in practical terms? What does it look like to strengthen your relationship with God when you're in this kind of marriage?
Well, here's the nuts and bolts. I'm assuming, and it's a good assumption, because I always ask couples when I see them, do you know Jesus Christ personally? If not, we're going to do that like right now, because without God's help, you're not going to make it. But then the second question is, how are you personally doing in your relationship with God through Jesus? Church attendance, maybe a little lax. I'm not having a quiet time. You're not close to God. So if you're not close to God, or ma'am, you're not. We can't do the steps in my book. We're going to have to. We start with that. Let's get your faith back where it belongs. One of Satan's most effective tools is using marital unhappiness to draw you away from God. He's a master at it. I don't want to go to church. We're unhappy, and we're just drifting apart. And so we don't want to pray together. Everything falls apart, but it's you and God that's the main thing. So we start getting that back. And most of the couples on my office hang their head. They know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't get pushback. They say, you're right. And the man will say, I'm the leader. I should make sure we go to church.
Let me ask you, David, that's an interesting observation with the couples that come to you. How many come to you that are struggling, that do have a good, healthy relationship with God? They're reading the Word regularly. They're praying regularly, maybe hopefully praying together regularly. How many of those couples come in for help?
3%.
3%.
I mean, seriously,
Think of
that's why it's in the book. It's major league. I am not close to God. It's only with God's power that I can love this opposite sex person. Once I lose that connection, I literally cannot do it.
That fits with national survey work, that it's somewhere around 1% to 3%, that the whole country of Christians would say that. If we're engaged with each other, if we're healthy spiritually, very few people have marital difficulty at the level that it's going to tear it apart. Yeah. Let me ask you this. You believe the breakdown in most marriages is a breakdown in communication. And we see that here at Focus. It sounds so simple. I was talking to Gene the other night, and we were talking about how many generations do we have to go through? When will we say, oh, it's communication? Because we've been talking about it for like 2,000 years.
Yeah.
That we need to communicate better. We need to love and respect each other. Why is this so hard to do if it's so obvious?
Nobody knows how. When you're dating, and even early in marriage, you think you know how. You think you're having deep conversations. In fact, you are not, because you don't know how. Every parent listening should actually sit their kids down, and there should be a crash course over the course of years actually teaching them how to communicate with the opposite sex. Nobody does it, because you don't think to do it. Well, that'll just work out. We worked it out. They'll work it out. No, we need to have, as part of premarital education in this country, and the church can be involved in that, very clear, I'm going to teach you how to communicate. That's what I do with my premarital couples.
Wow. Think of that. Just
would be
in
huge.
every way. Yeah, huge.
They think they already know. They don't know.
So that area of communication, the book, the 90-Day Program, addresses that head on. Another one, and this I think is, if not equal to, maybe greater than, because it starts everything else, selfishness. I mean, I think, Dr. Clark, the main reason God set it up this way, why opposites attract. I mean, he's probably smiling a bit because he's moving us toward his character, selflessness in marriage. Speak to that issue of how selfishness can destroy a marriage.
Oh, boy. It works every time it's tried, and it's tried every time. And I think of my marriage specifically. I have a wonderful mother, Kathleen Clark. I'm sure she's listening to this. I always give her a hard time. It's always the mom's fault. But anyway.
Right. Wait a minute. I'm sticking up for
I know.
moms.
She was so loving and so gracious. And I think I was the baby. It's great to be the baby. And so I was spoiled. I come into marriage. Everything had been taken care of. And I was a great kid. Don't get me wrong. I was a great kid. And I really was, didn't give them too much
Except
trouble.
you're really
Except you were a
messy.
slob,
Well,
yeah.
except for the slob part. That's right. But Mom didn't seem to care. She just shut the door. I come into to marriage with Sandy. Oh, my goodness. The expectations.
Is she a firstborn by chance?
No, she's second born, but she really is more of a firstborn. She's a doer, she's a mover, she's a shaker. She tells me what to do, and I do it. She's a rock. But I came in totally unprepared. I thought that if Sandy just met all of my needs, well, of course, I'd be happy, and then if I'm happy, she'd be happy. A lot of guys feel that way. Well, it was the dumbest thing in the world. So I had to really revamp. Loving her, we had some great conversation. Talk about communication. She sat me down early in marriage and said, look, I'm doing everything here, Dave. We're at Dallas Seminary. I'm doing the laundry. I'm working full time. And I'm typing your papers late at night. I would hand them to her and say, would you type this? And I'd go to bed.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, it was incredibly
okay,
selfish.
snares, daggers are flowing right at you right now. My goodness, what kind of a husband was that?
Terrible. Sandy said, you're out of your mind. And so I started doing the laundry, started doing the dishes when she cooked. I got a part-time job because the burden was too much on her, and I did my own dumb papers. But more than that, I had to learn how to love this beautiful blonde. I had no idea. And so I had to learn how to talk with her, how to make time with her, how to really meet her needs and have conversations that would be deep for her. Our first year was rough.
Yes. Okay, for the men that are listening, let me ask this question. What does a deep, good conversation sound like? I mean, we're down to 101, buddy.
Well, you literally first you let your wife define that. Because a
that's
guy
good.
might think this was a great conversation about me fixing the car engine or whatever it might be.
The
or how
box
the Red
scores.
Sox are doing. Exactly. You know what? No, I don't think so. So you let her, if you've got the guts, you sit down with your wife today and you say, honey, what is a deep conversation? She'll laugh her head off. Ha, you kidding? You've never asked that. She'll probably faint. But that she knows exactly what she wants. Here, and you let her know. And she'll let you know what she needs. Well, we would talk about a topic, and you would say this, and I would say that, and you'd ask me certain questions. She knows.
Is that a good question to start with?
It is. What is a deep conversation with me? What would that look like, honey?
Yeah.
She knows the answer. And your particular woman will be able to tell you and choreograph it, and you'll say, okay, I'm going to work on that. So it's like a training exercise. Women like have a PhD in communication.
So we shouldn't be shocked by the speed in that reply when you ask that question.
There will be no
Bam!
pauses.
Don't be upset. It was so quick because she's been wanting to answer that question for a few years, maybe.
She has. And that's male leadership. You need to be asking her, what are your needs? And that's one of her key needs. Let's start working on this. She will be beyond thrilled. And then together, yeah, I mean, she'll teach you how to communicate. She absolutely will.
Well, and that's a beautiful picture of how it could work too, is for the wife to maybe knock some of that edge off of her anger, that he needs to be taught.
Right.
I mean, it's hard for us to say that. We don't want to be taught about anything. We could fix that, and then we totally mess it up. But even in this area, to be taught, so, honey, can you teach me how to be
Sure.
deeply intimate with you?
It takes guts to ask that.
Huh.
Women tend to think he knows and he's holding out on me.
Right.
No, here's the secret. He doesn't have a clue.
Right.
He needs to be taught. And if he's open to that, you'll do it together. Like every area of your relationship, parenting, I mean, in the bedroom, the physical, the spiritual, you got to work together.
Right.
And teach each other.
Well, and again, you mentioned it. Someone's going to be working to tear you apart, the enemy. And he's
Right.
so successful. David, you mentioned writing a letter of responsibility to your spouse. That sounds, again, a little intimidating as I read it. What does it mean?
I'm sitting with a couple. This is second session. We've established some of the foundational things as we've discussed, and now we're going to talk about, in fact, the homework assignment is going to be, and they bring it in, the letter of responsibility, A and
That
B.
just sounds bad. Sorry.
It does, but you know what? I don't care.
I
I'm
know
tough.
that.
You know that. And if I explain it, look, because they come in first session, it's all about the other person. She, bam, 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 bam. You wouldn't believe. And then she goes back, oh, yeah, well, how about you, bozo? Bam, 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 bam. I say, this is not helpful. You're probably right in what your partner is doing wrong, but it doesn't help. You can't do anything about that. So stop the rocks and the bottles. I'm going to have you look in the mirror very solidly, pray over this, and write out the mistakes you've made in the marriage for next time. You can hear a pin drop in the counseling session. But you know what? That's how we start. That's how Dr. Clark starts. That's how the Bible starts. It starts with looking in the mirror, the log in your eye. Take a look. Be very honest about mistakes, regrets, things you have to work on. That's A. And then B is what you're going to do, what you want to do to change those things. Mm-hmm. Couples that come in And a lot of them try this because of resistance. They'll come in and they haven't done the assignment. I'm not going to see them again. This is a progressive series of steps. I'm not mean about it. Well, sometimes I am, depending on if I've had my chai tea or not in the morning. Anyway, so I will say, no, this is, in fact, we're going to cut this session short because you don't have the homework. I have no other agenda here.
Yeah.
And you can go now and you're going to pay me. That nips it in the bud.
That's good. Another one that you talk about is focusing on your spouse's positive attributes. That could be so hard, and especially if you have a critical nature, which I think all human beings do. It's whether or not you let it out of the cage.
Yeah.
And because it's so fleshly to be critical, and that's again one of the things Jesus talked about is bite that tongue. Don't go there. And how would we think about being less critical or not critical and more positive about our spouse? How do we do that?
Well, it's a great question, Jim. When a marriage breaks down, as you know, it's all negative. When they're sitting in front of me, they're all negative. The positivity is all gone. That's how they started in their relationship with positivity. So we bring that back, and it has to be forced. I say, you're not going to like hearing this. You're not going to want to do it. We're not worried about your feelings. You just have to do it. Faith in God, faith in this process, and hopefully love for your spouse that's going to be developing. We start with compliments. I'll say this next week. I want you to come up with a list of 14 very impressive and real compliments for your spouse. Physical attractiveness, character, what they do for you, spiritual qualities, has to be a real list. And then you're going to drop, in 7 days, two compliments a day, one in the morning, one in the evening. That and it's the most awkward thing in the world. They don't want to do it. I can't think of anything positive. Don't come back to my office until you have thought of positives. Because they're there. They're just totally buried by your dysfunction, and Satan's pushing them way out of whack. So when they start, after that week, things are starting to change, simply because they've said something that is true, and it starts to connect them. So we start with that.
Yeah, it's so true, and it's so important. It goes back to communication, like you're saying. Let's end today talking about conflict, which is, again, all of these are so critical. I keep saying this is important. But the lack of communication and dealing with conflict in a healthy way is what got a lot of couples to the point they're at now, right? The point that they need help. What does healthy conflict look like? And David, you know this. Folks are going to email us or contact us and say, if you're Christian, you shouldn't have any conflict. Address that too.
Yeah, those people have big problems. There's nothing worse, in my opinion, I'll tell couples this, than a couple that has no conflict.
Why?
Oh, my goodness.
It sounds right, though. It sounds like a good thing.
Very Christ-like. That's not true. Christ had conflict with a lot of people, and they killed him. That was pretty conflictual. And he always told the truth, which got him in all kinds of trouble, even though it was done with love. Yeah, if you're avoiding what is actually going on.
So you're burying things.
Absolutely.
Potentially.
Right. And that's keeping you far apart. And so those kind of couples, if I'm avoiding all these issues that are really bothering me, I'm not talking about a lot of things I should be talking about. And so you pull way apart. You're going to have conflict. You actually want to have conflict. It's built into God's system. And if you handle it the right way, there's all kinds of passion in conflict. Working it through, finding out things about your partner you never knew, closeness results, the making up is sweet. The whole thing works.
Can I ask you about that? Because so often we've had marriage experts on the program. And one of the things, especially couples that have gone through horrific marital strife, maybe infidelity, what have you, but they work through it. Without exception, what I hear from them is that our marriage is more intimate now in every way, emotionally, physically, everything. Why is that when you go through such a valley? If you can love each other again, truly love each other, you seem to have the best marriage that you've ever had.
I tell you what happens. Initially, and most importantly, you see God working in your life. Oh my goodness. Look what God has done. It's with his power we've gotten through this. He gets all the glory. We couldn't do it on our own. So there's a reconnection to him. But also as you work, it's like being in a war zone together. These guys that have been to war, or guys and girls that have been to war together, those are bonds that never lessen over the course of a lifetime, because you've been through this together, and I got your back. And what I tell couples is we have to heal from the sin, we have to heal from the problems, but in the process, you get reconnected. Because you're talking about very deep personal things, things you've never talked about for years. If you can talk about it, then you really get connected on a deep level. And so I would second that totally. I tell couples you're going to be so much better than you ever were once we've gone through this valley.
And what you're saying is it almost creates the synapses. It connects the couple the way they should have been connected from the beginning.
Right.
Isn't that an irony?
And they figure out we were never connected. No couple is ever connected on a deep level when they get married.
Yeah.
You can't be. You literally cannot be. So once you've worked through problems together, and even serious problems, that's what connects you. That's God's plan.
Well, that's good. David, man, we have flown through this, but we're not done. We've covered topic 1, when the couple is unhappy but willing to work toward it. We still got to come back to the one spouse not being willing and kind of dig into that. And then finally, when the big sins occur, whatever that might be, infidelity or abuse, or where there's something happening that needs more serious contemplation, maybe separation, those kinds of things. Let's come back next time and cover that. Can you stick with us?
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, good. Let's do it.
Hey, I'm John Fuller, and thanks for watching. Get more info about Focus over here and more from our guests over there, and be sure to subscribe to our channel as well.